Natalia, yeah, unfortunately, Israel and Israelis are furious at what David Lammy came out with yesterday. We've been talking about it this morning already. Let's talk to Ryan Saby, Deputy Political Editor at The Sun. Ryan, a very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
David Lammy is the sort of world's pariah right now, certainly when it comes to Israel and even the United States of America, who were not expecting him to do what he did.
Yeah, that's right. The decision yesterday to suspend some of the arms export licences did come as a bit of a shock. You do wonder whether they've been storing this decision up for a few weeks and they wanted to make it in Parliament as MPs returned from their summer break. But again, it did catch a lot of MPs by surprise. But as David Lammy says, there's a process that has to go through. This has been under review for several weeks, several months. And this is the decision that they came to, but it has created this furious backlash across from MPs and around the world.
Yeah, I think people were shocked at the timing as well, because he announced it on the day that many of those hostages who were killed, murdered by Hamas just the other day, were being laid to rest and funerals were going on. Yeah,
no, exactly. I think, in hindsight, I think the government may be sort of ruining that quite a lot, actually. I think some manoeuvring around, they could have waited, a few days or a few weeks to make that decision. But it does look extremely insensitive to actually make that decision. Right.
And it's the latest, isn't it, in a long line so far of Labour kind of announcements that have been, I think, broadly insensitive. An awful lot of the noise around the winter fuel payment, which was withheld, was almost like the first thing they did. The backlash now on that has made it all the way to the front page of the Daily Mail today. Labour now described as running scared. I've certainly spoken to a couple of backbench Labour MPs who have said, we're literally inundated with emails from constituents who are saying this is the worst thing anybody's ever done. Why do you hate old people so much? And they've now sort of done a semi-U-turn because they're giving a third of the money back that they were going to save to councils, 400 million quid's worth, to let them distribute to people who need it, who can't afford to heat their homes.
Exactly. They made this decision at the end of July. It was never going to raise that, save the government that much money. Now, not only have they given that money to local councils, there's a big push and a big drive this week to try and get people to claim pension credit, which is great if you can claim that. But the fact that you're going to get so many more extra people trying to claim that money just make the savings, they could be minuscule in the end. And you just wonder whether it was worth that political hit. And also, is it worth attacking or targeting pensioners who've been given this allowance over several years and then just take it away as we head into those winter months? I mean, you sort of have to question some of the political judgments on that.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I mean, as far as the way that the general kind of wherewithal of the government is, they don't seem to have a core strategy at the moment, it seems to me. I was saying this a bit earlier on the show. It's almost as though, Keir Starmer's going off to a school, talking to school children about why he wanted to be Prime Minister. He wanted to do good and make the world a better place for everybody to live. Then at the same time, he's still defending the winter fuel payment being withheld from pensioners. Then you've got, Lisa Nandy banging on about Oasis ticketing prices and how terrible that is. And then you've got, Yvette Cooper talking about still clamping down on people who were not involved in the riots but were sending abusive messages on online. It's all a bit scattergun, isn't it?
Yeah, I think this is the issue when people first come into government. They're trying to look busy. And I think one of the key things that leading up to, we've got the budget at the end of October, and I think that's probably where you may see a little bit more where the government sort of set out their stall and their priorities. But it seems like that's going to be extremely tough as Rachel Reeves has got that £22 billion black hole to fill. But you do wonder whether on that point and winter fuel allowance, whether there is a little bit of movement. I can't see how they get through the next 2 months without actually offering pensioners or some pensioners a little bit more help.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's have a look at Yvette Cooper and what she said yesterday about the riots in Parliament.
So let's be very clear, those violent and criminal attacks were not protests, they were not about grievance, they were thuggery, racism and crime. plenty of people across the country have strong views about crime, about policing, about immigration, asylum, the NHS and more, but they don't pick up bricks and throw them at the police. They don't loot shops or attack places of worship, and they don't set buildings alight knowing that other human beings are inside. There's lots to debate on all kinds of policy issues, but no one should make excuses for violence or thuggery that risks public safety.
She seems to sort of finally attest to the fact there that people do have concerns about things like immigration, which is, you know, something that will please some people because at least it's being acknowledged now.
Yeah, no, that's right. I think one of the big things about the words that she said in the House of Commons yesterday was about community sort of cohesion and the police response. Have they got enough resources to actually get into the communities? And there's that big announcement of how she wants to get thousands more community officers into communities just to try and get that cohesion back again, or I say back again, or at least make it work in the first place. So I think that's roughly where she was coming from yesterday. And she launched a sort of a 5 steps review to trying to get that.
Well, I wonder whether the police might be too busy arresting people for smoking in pub gardens. That great Sun exclusive that you guys did just the other day turned out to be true, of course, as they often do. And again, it seems to me that people are saying it's like a sledgehammer to crack a nut. An awful lot of pubs only have gardens because people sit outside and smoke in them, you know, and a lot of pubs are going to close down as a result.
Yeah, I mean, the government had an opportunity to close that one down last week, but they certainly didn't. Keir Starmer says that he's coming from a starting point of smoking costs 88,000 lives every single year. But speaking to the pub industry, it'd be interesting to obviously hear what they say on whether what the scientific evidence for that is, and actually banning smoking from those outdoor spaces. And also it comes down to personal responsibility and the whole nanny state issue. So I wonder whether when push comes to shove, once they have this consultation in the autumn, whether that actually goes through.
Yeah.
There may be some sort of compromise around the edges, but they will dress it up as a ban.
But that's the thing, and I mean, now they seem to be sticking their noses into all sorts of places. It's almost like they've got a taste for it. Lisa Nandy, never mind Nanny State, Lisa Nanny State, as I call her, wants to get involved in the Oasis ticketing row. Have a look at this. Very possibly.
I don't know what conversations Oasis had about ticket pricing, but I do know that it's deeply depressing to have had this incredible moment where so many people, especially at my age, were incredibly excited that this event of a lifetime that they thought may never happen was happening, only to find that they had to queue for hours in a queue, and for many of them to find that when they got to the front of that queue they couldn't actually afford the tickets that were on offer. We think as a government that there's an overhaul needed of the regulations around ticketing.
How many members of the government do you think will get tickets to see Oasis, and how many will have paid for them?
I think that's an interesting question. I think once the concerts happen next year and you look at the register of members' interests a few weeks later, it will be interesting to see that. I can imagine there's culture secretary, and clearly Lisa Nandy seemed like a fan there. You know, you'd expect her possibly to go. But yeah, the issue of dynamic pricing, you could say it's the free market at work. Do the government really need to get involved? But I think one thing that did grate slightly was the fact that these tickets were on offer, first of all, for about £150. Then, you know, that last little surge of tickets being sold, they went up to £350. You know, I think if the band or the Ticketmaster, whoever, or the ticket companies actually said that in the first place, I think that would maybe sat a little bit easily. But I think you know, lots of people were in those queues for hours and hours and hours, and I think that the whole disappointment of not actually getting tickets actually probably played into that a little bit. Yeah,
no, I'm sure it did, but I just don't think if the government's going to start, you know, making legislation to deal with people being disappointed, there's a lot of stuff they should be doing before they get down to Oasis and ticketing. Yeah, totally.
I think on consumer protections, if someone offers you, you know, if you pay for a ticket for Oasis and you're stuck in the car park and you can't actually watch the concert, I think that's possibly, you know, right to actually make a complaint. But when you get to buying the ticket, you know exactly what you're buying. You have that choice, and you can walk away.
Well, exactly right. It's not compulsory, even though you would think it was. So many people want to go to see them. Great to see you, Ryan. Thank you very much indeed. Ryan Sabey there, Deputy Political Editor at The Sun.